Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. Daryl Tukufu, one of the professors here at MCUTS, Memphis Center for Urban Theological Studies. You're about to get a little taste of what we go through right here at MCUTS. So be still, just look, and we know we'll see you soon.
What do you all think about when you hear the word leadership? Responsibility. Accountability, integrity.
Example.
Why'd you listen to him?
He was the only one that cared. In
Pe-
that position.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Leaders care. They have compassion. They have integrity. There's responsibility that comes with it. Spider-Man's granddaddy told him what? With great power comes great responsibility. What else do you think about when you hear leadership?
Of course,
Jesus. Faithfulness. Serving. Humility. Sacrifice. Going somewhere. Vision. Do you know where you're going? Yeah. Being able to inspire other people to follow that vision. You all sound like you read the book already. But I want to condense those qualities into 5 that the book talks about. The book I'm teaching from tonight is The Leadership Challenge. In this book, the authors start out by saying that they asked people in the early 1980s to tell us what they did when they were at their personal best. So they surveyed a large contingent of leaders who were very successful in the 80s and asked them what did they do when they were at their personal best. And after analyzing thousands of these leadership experiences, they discovered that regardless of the times or setting, people who guide others along pioneering journeys follow surprisingly similar paths. And they narrowed all these paths and all these extraordinary things into 5 categories. I'm going to talk about those 5 categories. The first one is model the way. You got to model the way. I'm sure that when Darius was incarcerated, he saw something in Gray that he's like, you know what? I'd like to model that. He saw something in him. Titles are granted, but it's your behavior that earns your respect. We can have titles all day, you know, Reverend this, Doctor that, Bishop that, but if your character doesn't match your title, I remember a story about Alexander the Great, one of the greatest conquerors in the Roman world, and he decided he was going to visit his troops at night. And he went amongst the troops and they were asleep, but he did not expect to find the lead guard asleep. And he came up and he kicked the man while he was asleep. And the soldier stood up, recognized who he was, and just started shaking because he's like, oh my God, Alexander the Great. And he says, what's your name, soldier? He said, Alexander, sir. He said, excuse me? What is your name? Alexander, sir. He asked him again, he screamed at, what is your name? He said, Alexander, sir. He said, either change your name or change your conduct. He had the same name as Alexander the Great, but his conduct did not match his name. Your conduct has to match your title, your function, who you're aspiring to be, because people don't care nothing about your title if your lifestyle's not matching it. And really, when we think about it, that's really what's happened to ministry these days, huh? With a lot of the millennials that you're working with, you know, you got rap artists talking about, I'll clap at the Reverend, you know. They look at us as prey now because they don't think that we are integritous, that we have the best interests of the community, because of when one of us do bad, it hurts all of us. The ministry takes a black eye. And it's so important that we model the example. All of the qualities that you guys listed a while ago were great qualities, and they're all biblical qualities, and they're hard to live by. Humility, servant attitude. Because if we tell the truth about it, a lot of leaders have a sense of entitlement and want to be served, not served. When you're a leader and you want people to do something, you first have to model it. So if we want our church to be servants, guess what we got to do? We got to model it. Are you picking up trash? Are you putting chairs out when there's overflow? I still get out of my truck when I'm driving across the parking lot, and I'll pick up some trash and throw it away, because I want my people to see that it's not beneath me to go and pick up some trash. Or when the women are bringing in something from Sam's, and I see it, I'll go open up the door and I'll go grab something out of the back of the car and bring it in as a senior pastor. We got to model it. Watch this. You must clarify values by finding your own voice. As a leader, you must affirm the shared values of the group. Words and deeds must be consistent. Exemplary leaders set the example by aligning actions with shared values. Values show up in your behavior. If you want to know what people value, watch how they act. If you want to know what a church is like, watch the behavior of the members. Whatever they value is going to show up in their behavior. Whatever you value as a leader is going to show up in your behavior. So if you say you love people, you can't be hateful. If you say you're generous, you can't be stingy. If you say your church is a worshiping church and you sat down, you said you the pastor and you ain't worshiped one time, what do you really value? It's got to show up in your what? In your behaviors. When I was candidating for my first church, when I was a young man, fresh out of seminary, I went to my senior pastor and I was like, Doc, I'm a candidate for this church and I need your advice. And he told me, he said, you need to grow your beard, get you some glasses, get you a nice suit, because that's part of the con. And I was like, part of the con? You gotta look the part. You know, you got that baby face, you gotta look like an older man. And so I tried to do that. I got me a 3-piece suit, I had me some fake glasses, you know, trying to look like an old man. And God says, are you crazy? That is not, I felt like David. When Saul gave him his armor, and he says, fight in this. And David's like, I can't fight in this, I ain't used to this. My anointing was in overalls and Timberland boots and working with young people. I had to be me. I had to find my own voice. I had to find my authenticity and stop trying to be like all the cookie cut pastors that I had seen. I had to be me, and God had a unique niche for me to do ministry, and I had to be comfortable in my own skin. If you're going to model the way, you got to model it your way. You got to be you. Nobody can beat you being you. Huh? You know, we all grew up as preachers, listening to other preachers, right? Bishop G. Patterson. We tried to hoop like Jasper Williams or who else? Who's so? All them folk. Go to the Baptist convention and go to late night preaching and get the tapes. And I listened to Freddie Haynes was one of my mentors, and I try to tell stories like him and talk fast like him. And I remember I hooped all the way through a sermon one time, from the beginning all the way to the end, until I found my own voice. Finding your own voice is not just your preaching style, it's also how you live, your philosophy of ministry, how you dress, how you think, how you conduct yourself. You have to find out who you are. It's okay to mimic for a little while until you get your feet up on you, but somewhere or another you got to come up with your own value system. You should know a leader by the fruit that he or she bears. Huh? Here's the second quality I want to give you of a leader, of an exemplary leader. Model the way is the first one, right? The second one is inspire a shared vision. Darius, I believe you said you got to have vision, right? You have to inspire a shared vision. People describe their personal best leadership experiences as times when they imagine an exciting, highly attractive future for their organizations. God has always given me the ability to see something before it was. Amen. Vision. The people perish without vision. People cast off restraints without vision. People go crazy without vision. You must paint an inspiring vision as a leader before people want to follow you. And after 14 years of ministry, I hit a snag where the the maintenance of ministry, the strain of ministry clouded my vision. You know, when the recession hit, that wasn't no fun at all. You know, when white churches caught the cold, black churches caught the flu. In terms of giving, and you know, before the recession hit, y'all remember the days when we could go out and get what we want and do what we want. When that hit, it clouded my vision. But just here recently, God opened my eyes back up. It was like Saul when the scales fell from his eyes and I could see again. And God woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning one morning. I just started writing down stuff. And I came back to my staff and I shared the vision, and the whole staff got energized again, because for a while we were just kind of operating in maintenance mode. And if you're not careful, you will shift from vision to maintenance. And you have to always be in the place where you're hearing from God, so God can give you vision and revelation on where he's trying to take you. The future, God is already there, and he gives us vision to see where he is.
What is that? What do you mean by maintenance?
Maintenance, paying the bills, trying to fill the seats up, you know, trying to get people to come to church, you know, all of the administrative stuff on the inside. And you're ignoring engaging your community. What is God wanting you to do? You know, in terms of the people that are not yet in, we become internalized and not externally focused. Vision-minded leaders are externally focused. And so if we're not careful, though, we become like Peter when they're in the storm, right? And they see Jesus coming towards them. And they say, oh my God, it's a ghost. And Jesus said, do not be afraid, it is I. And Peter says, if it's you, tell me to come out. And what does he do? He steps out of his internal environment. He steps out into a turbulent environment, but yet he's able to stay afloat because he's got his eyes on Jesus. He's got his vision. He's got his eyes set on Jesus. But when he takes his eyes off of Jesus and starts looking at the winds, he listening to the winds and looking at the waves, he begins to sink. How many of us can tell the truth that somewhere in your ministry, you've taken your eyes off of Jesus and started sinking into self-pity, sinking into maintenance mode, sinking into the everyday minutia of administrative stuff and church work and not doing kingdom work? So we have to do what? We have to inspire vision in our people. People describe their personal best leadership experience as times when they imagine an exciting, highly attractive future for their organizations. They had visions and dreams of what could be. Every organization, every social movement begins with the dream. Who is the famous dream of all times? Yes, sir. He inspired what? He inspired a nation. He inspired the world. And the thing about it is that he cut from his manuscript. He had a script already laid out, and it wasn't really working. So he you know how we do. When the Holy Spirit hit, he just pushed them notes aside and said, I have a dream. And he started speaking on what God had showed him in his spirit. He got out of maintenance, and he shifted to vision and inspired. What could you shift? What could you move if you were brave enough to leave your manuscript? Ooh, good God Almighty. Leave maintenance and shift to vision. What could you change if you got out of the ordinary, routine, mundane, life-draining stuff that you do every day and say, God, I want to be crazy. Get me out of the boat. Take me into rough waters. Take me out of my comfort zone. Show me something beyond myself. Yeah. Ooh-wee. Yeah. Y'all gonna make me start preaching. You have to inspire vision in others. Watch this, and I'm gonna help y'all preachers with something. People do not give to maintenance. They give to ministry. They give to vision. They give to vision. Young millennials give to causes. How are you going to heal the world? How are you going to help the hurting? How are you going to set free the oppressed? How are you going to heal the wounded? How are you going to set the captives free? You show me that and you got me. But if all you want me to do is pay your bills and your Cadillac note, you lost me. We have to inspire a vision that is beyond ourselves. Leaders envision the future by imagining exciting and ennobling possibilities. You need to make something happen, to change the way things are, to create something that no one else has ever created before. I just feel I'm pregnant tonight. I got to get this stuff out. So I read a book called Zag by Marty Neumeier, and he's a marketing guy, right? But when you're a pastor, a leader, you got to read all kind of stuff, you know, because you got all kind of people sitting in your congregation, so you got to kind of be well read on a lot. So I read about this marketing guy called Marty Neumeier, who wrote a book called Zag, and here's his premise: while everybody else is zigging, you got to zag. And zagging is going where the white noise is, where nobody else is doing nothing. So everybody else is doing something over here, but ain't nobody doing nothing over here. And I want to be the first person over here who's doing this, because ain't nobody addressing this. What is that white noise that God is calling you to? Your gift mix, my God, you were incarcerated, right? So there surely is some kind of niche that you've been through. God didn't waste your pain.
Wow.
There is something that you're supposed to be doing that we can't do in this room. And he's waiting for you to give birth to it, but you got to inspire a vision to get the people who want to help you with that cause over there. And when you write the vision, make it plain so that the runners can run with it. Right. Ain't nobody running because you ain't painted no vision. Yes. Let me tell you a personal story. So some of you might know that I've got a project in Hickory Hill called Eden Square. We were able to get 43 acres of land during the recession. The mayor approached us, Mayor Wharton approached us about taking over an apartment complex that had become an eyesore in Hickory Hill. There was gang activity, drugs. It was just an ugly eyesore. And my CDC, my community development director, came to me and said, "Pastor, what if we took over those apartments?" I said, "Boy, what are we going to do with some apartments?" I said, "We got our hands full with stuff already. What are we going to do with apartment?" He says, "Well, I wrote down the vision that you gave us. You said you want to do affordable housing back in 2001. You said you want to do a charter school. You said you want to do a wellness center. Why not make this a town center where we can put all those pieces in place and surround it, let the school be the anchor, our charter school, and I believe that we can do it." And I saw the vision that I had given and had forgotten about, that one of my runners ran with. I had already shared the vision years ago. He ran with it and went to the architects, and they drew out a plan. And now today, I just found out that we got our funding gap closed for the affordable housing. We had a $350,000 funding gap after we'd already raised about $20 million, and we were short $350,000. And I said, surely if God help us raise 20, we can raise 350. So I gave it to him, and they told me today we closed it. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you paint the vision, though it tarry, wait on it. Yes, sir. And it should surely come to pass. You have to have an inspiring vision. Number 3, you got to challenge the process. If you're going to be an exemplary leader, you've got to challenge the process. What time is it? Are we good? Challenge the process. Challenge is the crucible for greatness. Ooh-wee. Challenge is the crucible for greatness. Every single person best leadership case involved a change from the status quo. Now, one person claimed to have achieved a personal best by keeping things the same. Leaders venture out. They don't sit idly by waiting for fate to smile on them. You have to be daring. You have to be bold. You got to take risks. You got to step out of your comfort zone. And even when you fall and make mistakes, he uses that. For every person God anoints, he must first crush.
Yes, sir. I agree.
When Jesus was praying in the Mount of Olives, it's interesting that he was praying in the place where they pressed the olives. Because if God's really going to use you, he's got to put you in a pressing place. He's got to put you, come on, Joseph. He's got to put you in the pit before he takes you to the palace. And it's in that challenging place that God brings out exemplary leadership in you, stuff that you didn't even know that you had inside of you, because crises has a way of showing you where Christ is. It has a way of bringing out stuff in you that you would not ordinarily have developed on your own. And so it's important, my brother, that we and sisters, that we challenge the process. You have to constantly be looking outside yourself and your organization for new and innovative products, processes, and services. You got to constantly look outside yourself, outside your city, to see what God is doing in other places. What are you doing to challenge your own process? Is it coming back to school? Is it going on a mission trip? Is it going to see how other people are doing ministry? Because innovation and change involve experimenting and taking risk. Your major contribution will be to create a climate for experimentation in which there is recognition of good ideas, support of those ideas, and the willingness to challenge the system. One of the things one of my mentors told me, he says, Stacy, you are anti-establishment. He said, you're going to be a good leader because you always challenge the status quo. Good leaders always challenge the status quo. And don't be surprised. For some of us who pastor more traditional churches, you're kind of like that young man that Plato talked about that lived in a cave. And they were living in a cave, and they saw occasionally monsters coming past the entrance of the cave. Big shadows of monsters on the cave walls, and they would shudder in fear when they saw the shadows come past the entrance and reflect upon the wall. And they said, we can never go outside because of the monsters. Until a young man, while they were asleep, decided he was going to get out of the cave. And he went out to the cave, and when he went out, the light, because he had never been in the light, temporarily blinded him until his retina adjusted, until his eyes iris adjusted, and he could see, and he started looking around. And what he saw amazed him. The monsters that he thought he saw were really human beings walking up erect. And the light that shone on them reflected in the cave and made them look like monsters. So he went in with a new paradigm to the people in the cave. He said, we can come out now. We can come out. Those are just people like us walking around. And they killed him because they didn't want to accept the paradigm that there was nothing to be afraid of. Leadership. Gandhi once said that when you follow God the way that you're supposed to follow God, that God can get you out of trouble, but if you really follow God the way you're supposed to, God will get you in trouble. Are you ready to get in trouble? The apostles rejoiced when they got whooped, when they got lashings, and they counted a joy to suffer with the Lord Jesus Christ. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to make tithers mad. We don't want to make the deacons mad. We just want to coast along, get that check. Don't make nobody mad. They're gonna take their money. They're gonna leave. What happened to the troublemakers in Acts? What happened to the rioters? What happened to the riot starters that Paul went into a city and troubled the whole city? What happened to those folks? Where they go? Where are those leaders at? Where is the leader that walked on Selma and got dogs sicked on them and people hit up in the head with batons? Where are those people at? Leaders challenge the system, don't they? Y'all wouldn't be sitting here today in this school. You wouldn't be sitting here in this school today if somebody didn't challenge the system and says, black people have souls too. Black people are intelligent. They deserve an education. We'd still be somewhere hiding down by the hush harbors and say, I couldn't hear nobody pray last night. But somebody challenged the process. All right then. The best leaders are simply the best learners, and life is a laboratory. When you take risks, mistakes and failures are inevitable. Proceed anyway. One way of dealing with the potential failures of experimentation is by constantly generating small wins and learning from experience. Most traditional churches are so stringent and so legalistic. And watch this, and then some mega churches, because we have to be on point, TV ready, that we can't put up people who ain't ready. And so you never get ready because all the professional people who know it all are always doing it. So if we got an elite group of people who know it all and people never get opportunity to fail, to try, then you have a organization that is not thriving because the best of the people are sitting out in your congregation undeveloped because you are too afraid to fail. Will Smith is making his 10th studio album coming out. Him and Jazzy Jeff are getting ready to start touring. See, I'm showing my age because some of y'all don't know who that is. He's going to make his 10th album, and he was on Beats Radio the other day talking to a DJ, and the man, he said, "Why did it take you so long to come out with your 10th album?" He said, "Well, man, you know, when you've been winning for so long, he says, you become afraid to take risk. And my creativity was stunted because I was afraid to fail because I was winning in all my movies that I was making until I failed." And the man said, "When did you fail?" He said, "When I made After Earth." You know, I liked that movie, but I liked it. It was good, but everybody didn't like it. And it messed people up because it wasn't the Will Smith they were used to seeing, and he got raspies and he got all these bad awards. He said, "I fell on my face and everybody in the world saw it." And he said, "It's the best thing that happened." Watch this. He said, "Because I realized that you cannot create at a high level until you're willing to fail." And many of us have lost the ability to risk. What happens to basketball teams, fellas and ladies, excuse me for this analogy, but what happens to basketball teams when they're winning in a game? They get relaxed. They're afraid to start. They're afraid to take risk. They try. They get more conservative, and the next thing you know, that the other team starts what? Coming back. And then another thing is when you win a championship, it's hard to do what? Repeat. Because the hunger, God help me, you lose the hunger. And we should never lose the hunger, and we should never lose the ability to take risks. My mentor told me, he says, the older your church gets, the more likely it is that you're not going to take risks like you did when you were younger, and that's when you stop growing. That's when decline comes. And so also personally, that's when you start declining.
Now I know you got excited when you saw those folks sitting there. You may recognize someone. Just think of yourself sitting in those chairs. And if so, and if you're interested, just contact us with the information you see on the screen.